Hello friends, and welcome back to the Rayo Moon Oracle. I'm Rayo, and today we're continuing our Tarot Discovery series with the Devil card, card number 15. So we're getting close, we're finishing up the whole Major Arcana here. So Devil card, not a fun one you usually want to see in a tarot reading. Lots of different elements to it, lots of positives and negatives, more so the negatives in this case. And when I was doing research on this card, there was a little bit of like kind of confusion for which one was which, whether or not the upright was the more positive meaning or the reverse was the more positive meaning. So it's kind of interesting how that ended up panning out here for my research and the different cards. So we'll get into it with our keywords, those numerology aspects, the astrology aspects, some other meanings, and then our reversals later on, okay? So let us get started. Our keywords for the Devil card. So limits, hopelessness or hopeless, bondage, temptation, overindulgence, vices. We have obsession, caution, extremes, self-indulgence, also creativity and passion, earthly pleasures, inner darkness, shadow, and sexuality. Numerology-wise, the Devil card is card number 15, which adds up to 6. Very tied heavily into the Lover's card, which is 6 in the Major Arcana. So that's kind of interesting there. It's actually, as we get into further into the deck, into the different decks that we have, and the original Rider-Waite meaning, you'll see that the couple is actually the same couple from the Lover's cards in the Devil card here. So we have that number 1, which is that self card, that self-ego piece for spiritual energy, and then 5 is that change. Adding those together, it's like the negative aspects of the number 6. So astrology-wise, the Devil is associated with Capricorn, which is ruled by the planet of Saturn. So you have that process of overcoming self, which is very Capricornian, the strive for more, which is where we can kind of get into that obsession with the Capricorn energy. And then the planet of Saturn really talks about those limitations and structures, which ties into this Devil card pretty well. So a lot of common imagery you'll see is like the on strings or on chains, that kind of bondage aspect there again. The ram's head, representative of a certain deity, Bammet. I'm not sure if I said that right, but used to be representative of a certain deity. Sometimes it's Pan. There's other gods where the Devil card used to actually be represented by versus how it's gotten taken over over the years. Upside down pentagram, of course, pretty common imagery. Other meanings for this card, for the Devil card, we have fear makes the Devil energy bigger. So fear is a big energy in this card. That connected with earthliness, actually, which is very interesting. So you get that Garden of Eden imagery again in this couple post Garden of Eden and going out into the world and having that earthly knowledge, the tree of life knowledge coming in. But with that Devil energy, we can end up slave to our desires. There's abuse of power. We're avoiding our responsibility. Also creativity and passions in there. Interesting. Will, freedom, that free will, that choice is in there. With the Devil energy and overcoming it, you have that freedom to become who you truly are. It's kind of like the ultimate test. So that ultimate test, not trying to fall to self-deception, self-sabotage, really being in control of yourself and your life. So we don't want to be giving into ego. There's a concept of self-mastery that comes with that too. So representing that challenge in life, being tricked potentially. There is an illusion of powerlessness with the Devil card, which is, I think, a really big aspect there because it's that self-deception more than anything, believing that you don't have power, falling into that fear. So then we also get a little bit of more like materialistic entrapment and lack of fulfillment with the Devil card. So I have 3 different Devil cards for us today from my various tarot decks. I pulled some of my more unique ones that didn't you won't see any of the typical imagery from the Rider-Waite in these cards specifically. With the Rider-Waite, you have the Devil figure, right, and then the couple underneath in bondage and chains, and them having some of those aspects of the Devil with the horns and the tail, and really being subjected to the will of the Devil because they are not going to control themselves. First card I have right here, though, this Devil specifically from the Wild Unknown, we definitely have a lot of that Capricornian energy in this one, really strong. So we see our Devil here with the horns, and actual like ram in this case, with the pentagram on their forehead. And then the feet, representing kind of that hellfire in this case. That heat, that passion, that earthly sensuality is also tied in with that. But again, Wild Unknown is very simplistic, has a very simplistic, really driving down to the core of the meaning of the card, right? So we see the ram, in this case, representative of the devil with that pentagram, and then the fire at the feet. So burning things as it's moving along. That's kind of that abuse of power there, right? With this one specifically. So, and surrounded by darkness. So we get that underworld vibe with it being completely black around this animal here. So underworld vibe, the process of death and destruction and fear. That darkness and fear really tend to go hand in hand, don't they? Where it's like, okay, that fear of the unknown, which comes from the dark, and like what's lurking in the dark, what's lingering, where it's like, okay, we can't see, we don't know. So that's that fear constantly reinforcing and driving itself back in. So that energy is there with this devil card specifically. But honestly, not too much more to say for this one, which I think it's really cool. Again, very simplistic. I'll save this one I have in the middle for last because I think it's the most interesting. But our next devil card comes from the Tarot of the Divine. So let me grab the booklet for this one so I can hopefully get the right mythology that it has for it. But our snake figure here amongst the forest, which is very, very interesting. And then oh, there's no way I'm going to pronounce this right. Biotata. It's Brazilian mythology. So it doesn't say too much more in regards to that, but this devil card, I like the way it feels, where there's that intensity there with the snake eyes and the snake looking at you. And of course, that fire is there, that hellfire aspect being present, and amongst the trees. So it's like you get that aspect of potentially like a forest fire, that destruction is there as well. So after a little bit of research, this devil specifically is actually very interesting and helps lead into our final devil card as well. This devil card specifically, Biotata, or how, again, I'm not going to say it correctly, unfortunately, because I don't have the right pronunciation in my mouth, but this devil's figure specifically is a very protective one and does protect the forest from those that wish to harm it. So I think that's an interesting energy, and takes more after the historic meaning of the devil card specifically. And so again, that snake, it feels very intense with those eyes looking at you, and you can kind of see at the bottom the figure, the people, and the a little bit of the destruction there, the protective aspects, where it's like kind of that brutality protection, where it's like, okay, under any means, I'm going to protect this, that I'm taking care of this forest, in this case for this particular devil snake. So very interesting energy there, and leads into our final devil card number 15 from the Wild Unknown, which is the Guardian, actually by name. So what's very interesting for both of these devil figures being more of a guardian protective energy, we get tie into the more traditional, more ancient meaning for what the devil used to be in terms of the tarot, and really connecting with that like inner darkness, right? So the guardian for the Wildwood tarot here is actually a guardian for protecting that underworld aspect, that scarier, unknown, shadow aspect of yourself, who you are, and who others are. So you can kind of see they're in front of the cave entrance here, and it's like, okay, hey, you are going to get hurt. You are going to get hurt if you do not have the strength and the capacity in order to handle what is before you. So very interesting aspect with the devil here, and it does tie back into the current devil meaning energy, where it's like, okay, hey, this is that aspect of those vices and that self-deception, and what's the other word that was really important that I wanted? The like illusion, kind of that victim mentality, right? Those things that we fall victim to in our own minds, in our own, because of our own fears and our lack of courage, our lack of strength, where it's like, okay, hey, we think we don't have any control. And that ultimately leads to this self-destructive pattern that happens. And this guardian figure, also the previous devil guardian figure from the Tarot of the Divine, is not going to let you do that. It's not going to let you, it's going to have you succumb to your vices and your powerlessness, so that way you can't destroy others at the same time, if that makes sense. It's a very different kind of interesting energy for these devil figures, which is why I pulled them, honestly. It's the original right away imagery. It's like, okay, hey, you understand it. It's a very Christian view of it, but when you dive into other cultures and other meanings and other kind of quote unquote devil figures, or like guardian underworld figures in other cultures, the meaning changes, and the perception of it changes, right? Where it's like, okay, hey, falling to your vices, falling to your own delusions and your self-destructive tendencies, that overcoming process is the more important part for the devil energy, and what's going to help you grow and learn and become stronger as a person, versus I think the current meaning is really just that fear and that pain and hurt, all of that kind of tied in. So it makes more sense now as I was kind of doing research, where it's like, okay, hey, this, like, why are both these reverse meanings and upright meanings kind of similar at the same time? So it's like, okay, we get back into now finally with our reversals, where it's like, okay, too much devil energy, not enough devil energy. And then there's a few things in between here. So that ties us up for our devil cards here. So let's move on now to the reversals. So in terms of more devil energy, or kind of too much devil energy in this case, we get entrapment, greed, obsession, danger, ignorance, tyranny, abuse, fear. So those are all just like more, like it's like to the biggest extent. So it is kind of that regular devil energy almost. But where I think we get into the actual proper reversal meanings is the release of self-sabotaging, having a journey through the underworld, releasing negativity, enlightenment, power reclaimed, moving on. And then we get kind of that leveling up, seeing the light, like figuring it out, bringing awareness to ourselves, revelation. And it's like, oh, hey, I'm breaking a cycle, I'm breaking a pattern. And that's really good reverse meanings for the devil card, I feel. When you're getting more and more of it, though, it's like, okay, then that's when you're getting negativity, you're getting arrogance, possessiveness, dependency. Let's see, decay, detachment. Detachment can go either way in this case. Detachment's kind of neutral. So some of the more neutral reverse meanings for the devil, the detachment's one, and then fear of addiction and repressing of desires, I thought were interesting, where it's like, okay, hey, you know these things about yourself, you know these things are possible. So it's like you're trying not to fall into the devil energy, but you're so fearful of it and preventing yourself from living your life that you end up just falling into it anyway. And it becomes its own different level, where it's like, okay, you're trying to avoid earthly desires, or you're ignoring your desires, but then you're not living your life to the fullest extent, and then that fear still takes over you, and that's devil energy, it's too. So a very interesting kind of balancing act there. So let's see, anything else here? Codependency, and then I think I said possessiveness already, and negativity. So the release of any of those feelings and emotions and aspects of the devil card will show up when it is in reverse for this case. So it's like, okay, when you stop being greedy, when you stop being codependent, super dependent, when you stop being negative, all those things are that reverse devil energy. So interesting to see the different interpretations as we kind of move forward through the rest of the Major Arcana here, and we get into some of these less fun cards with like, okay, hey, here's the Death card, here's the Devil card, we've got the Tower coming up, less fun cards, Judgment. So they're the heavier aspects of life and the full in their journey here. So it's just part of the process and part of figuring it out. So it's like, okay, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to move forward? Last little thing here for our Devil to wrap up. If you see it in the tarot reading coming up, it's going to be a no for a yes or no. And the Devil card itself is not a bad card. It's just more a wake-up call than anything else. It's just like, hey, what's this? Be aware of what's going on in your life. Be aware of this thing that you're doing to yourself, because you are the one in control. So don't self-sabotage. Don't deceive yourself, and make sure you're really being aware and know what's going on, because then you won't fall victim to these kinds of things and fall victim to the Devil energy. So that is all I have for us today, friends. So hopefully this made sense. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something for the Devil card, and I'm gonna dive a little bit more into it myself here. I like this more guardian meaning for it, and the process of learning your shadow and really diving deeper into yourself and your self-knowledge. So something I'm gonna look forward to as I get a little bit further into more tarot research here. So, but I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye.